start? Fantastic. So we are recording. So I've muted all participants currently, and I noticed that video screens are off, which is fine. You're welcome to show your face. There is in Zoom a chat function, so you're very welcome to just introduce yourself briefly. Just let me know your name, where you're from, and maybe just let me know what art or craft that you do. It's really interesting to find out what people's specialities are, what they're up to, and then I can hopefully give a little bit better context, perhaps in relation to your own specific arts and crafts. I obviously don't know all arts and crafts and all mediums, but I do obviously a lot of teaching. I'm wanting this evening to just share some of my knowledge with those of you that are here live, and also with those people who will be watching this Zoom recording back. So if you're watching live, feel free to pop in the chat who you are, where you're from, and what your particular craft is. If you've not used Zoom before, if you go down to the bottom of the screen, I'm on a desktop, so I'm on a computer. So for me, on a desktop on Zoom, down at the bottom, there are a number of little buttons and things, and one of them is chat. So if you click on that, you can then chat, and feel free to use that to ask questions at any point during the session, and I will either answer them straight away, or I will remember them in my brain or come back to them at the end of the session, just so that I don't miss out on any information that I had planned to share with you this evening. So Joanna has just messaged, hi Joanna, in Billericay, Essex, mosaic artist and teach mosaic. Oh, I love mosaic. That sound is fun. That sounds super fun. Trieva, I hope I've said that right, from Canada, wildlife and nature artist. Ooh, that sounds exciting. Linda from Snowdonia in North Wales, printmaking, artist books, mixed media, handmade ink. Oh, that sounds fabulous, handmade ink. Ooh, lovely to hear from you. So thank you guys that have popped in the chat. It's also fine to just sort of sit and watch and absorb the information. There's no pressure to respond if you want to. Christine from Ohio, USA, taught general art to children, looking to teach multimedia and papermaking. Oh, I did a bit of papermaking at university as well. It's super, super fun. Lovely. So welcome. Oh, and one more, Ulrich from Oxford, mostly textile and mixed media. So welcome to you guys that are here live, and a huge hello to those people watching on the recording. The recording will be sent out either this evening or tomorrow, depending on how long it takes to sort of upload. So I'm going to pop it onto a YouTube on an unlisted link, so only people with the link will be able to see it. So it's there to watch back at any point. So I'm going to close down my email on my computer, and I'm going to get started. So I thought I'd perhaps just start by introducing who I am, and I will share my screen with you just to show you a little bit about the kind of offerings and courses that I currently teach, and then explain some of the ways that you can plan and create your own online course. So let me share my screen. There we go. So let me lose that Zoom bit. And here we have where's my presentation gone? Here we go. So hopefully you can see this presentation. I'll just keep this in this kind of format so you can see it. But basically this is created in a program called Canva. I will explain Canva a little bit later, but essentially it's a really helpful online platform for creating graphics. And I use it a lot for all my course graphics as well. So that's your first tip. Before we even start, I use Canva a lot. So this workshop is completely free. It's a session just to talk about how to plan and create online art courses. It's what I do, it's what I love. Teaching is my absolute passion. I finished university 21 years ago, in 2002, and I did a fine art printmaking degree. And almost immediately from the moment I finished university, I started teaching face-to-face courses and classes. So that was my background. And I did printmaking at university. So I specialise, and I have specialised in the past in lino cut printmaking and block printing. And so my first foray into teaching generally was teaching live, teaching face-to-face classes. I used to teach evening classes, one-day workshops, weekend workshops, because this was before really the internet took off in terms of online teaching. It wasn't really much of a thing back then. It was all about face-to-face teaching, and I used to print out little posters and send them to the venues and stick them up on things, and I used to go around villages and pin them up on village notice boards. It was really old school marketing, whereas now I moved to online. So I moved to teaching online in 2017. And I basically taught one big online printmaking course. And then from there, I've expanded to teach a number of smaller, shorter courses on a variety of different topics. I'm just going to show you some examples of some of the courses I have taught over the years. So some of these are current courses that are currently still available and active. And some of these are older courses that have retired. They've been and gone. They've been and gone. So I've been teaching for a very, very long time. I learned a lot about explaining things and teaching through that face-to-face engagement with people, because there is something very special about sharing knowledge with people in an actual real life environment. And the subjects that I teach now are still subjects that I have taught, had questions asked to me. And one of the key skills with teaching, and especially with teaching online, is being able to condense all of the knowledge and creativity in your brain and your years of skills and your passion for your subject into an understandable, followable, step-by-step course. And one of the tricky things about translating that to online is answering people's questions before they ask them. Because when you're in a room of people, so say I was teaching basic, let's say printmaking, basic, carving something out of a lino block, inking and printing. As I'm demonstrating it, clients, customers, students, whatever you want to call them, would ask me something there and then. Oh, how do I do this? Or what pressure do I need? So they would ask me questions as I was demonstrating. And so you can answer the questions. If you forget something when you're teaching face-to-face, it almost doesn't matter, because somebody's going to ask you the question and you can answer it and you move on. So you get that lovely dialogue. When you're teaching online, that's something that can be tricky in a pre-recorded class, because you've got to answer all those questions as you teach. There is a slight nuance when you're teaching on Zoom, for example, here, because if I miss something or I don't cover something tonight, you can ask me the question on chat. So there is some dialogue. And I think one of the really important things when you're teaching online is how to build that community and that connection with people, how you personally connect with people and how you can share the knowledge. They can watch you on a screen, whether it's live, whether it's pre-recorded. They can watch your steps, they can see your making, whether you're doing textiles, paper making, whether you're cutting up bits of china to create mosaics, whatever it is you're doing, they need to see it, understand it, and then put it into practice. And so I do think that creating courses for art and craft-based subjects, which are more practical, is quite different to teaching something that is about knowledge, purely knowledge, without the visual and practical elements. So if you're teaching, let's say, a language, you pretty much need dialogue. You don't need, to see somebody write the words down. You just need to talk with them. So it's quite a different, or like a business course, you just need to perhaps hear somebody talk and explain, watch a PowerPoint. But with a practical art-based subject, you need to see the craft, understand the material, see the end result, understand the process, and get across on screen that wow factor, that bit. And this is what always does it for me when I'm teaching, is that kind of moment of realization where somebody masters a skill. In printmaking, it's where they pull up the paper and they've got their finished print. Or if you're somebody's drawing or painting, when they step back and go, oh, actually, I'm quite proud of myself. I learned something there. That's good. And that is just the joy of teaching online. That's why I love it. So this is on this screen. So I'm just going to take a quick sip of drink. I have the heater on in my studio and it makes the air really dry. So these are some of the online courses I've taught in the past. I have taught a mixture of, let's say, flavors of courses. And I want to hop to this one here. So on this screen here, this is my very first course. It was called Introduction to Printmaking, and it covered all printmaking techniques, and it was huge. It was a massive course teaching all the printmaking techniques. And it started off as a folder, and it was like 250 pages, and I printed it out on paper, on my inkjet paper. And I remember watching those pages come out of my inkjet paper, inkjet printer, 250 pages. I used to hole punch it all, post it out with a materials pack. And that was my first distance learning course. And that was, oh gosh, in 2007. And then I translated this to an online course. And excuse me, part of how I taught this very first course was literally recording me teaching in a workshop environment. I'd done a lot of teaching, and so I literally set up a camera in front of me as I was teaching a group class, and I just filmed me teaching a workshop, because it gave students watching that experience of being in the room with me. Other students were asking questions, and a lot of online courses, that's how they started out back 5-10 years ago. That's how many online courses started out, as people who are teachers just filming themselves in the teaching environment. But technology has moved on so much. Technology has advanced. These things, phones, iPhones, smartphones, have advanced so much that we have full video editing, sharing capabilities on a single device that we carry around in our pockets, which is actually pretty amazing. Some of the film quality when I used cameras back 10 years ago were terrible compared to what you get on a contemporary smartphone. So one of the things that I do want to stress to you at this point as you're watching is that you don't need generally so much complicated, advanced technology that costs the earth to get started. And what I'm talking about specifically in this Zoom workshop tonight is just getting started. There are, of course, so many ways that you can level up, you can upgrade, you can experiment, and you can invest in technology and staff and all sorts of things. But to get started and to create your first course, you just need very often what you've got to hand. And if you have a modern iPhone or equivalent Android phone, and mine isn't even the newest, mine is something like a 11, I'd say. So it's 2 years old, it's not brand new, but it does the job. And something that it's really important to stress is that, and I want to give a analogy here, it's like making pancakes. Bear with me. So when you make pancakes, or certainly when I make pancakes, the first one you make is not your best pancake. So my introduction to printmaking course was my first online course. Think of it as my first pancake. Yes, the content was all right, but compared to courses nowadays and how I deliver courses now, it was that pancake where you're like, that's not the best one. Second, third, fourth pancakes, the pan is hot. You've got your method, you've got the right amount, you can flip it right. It just works. First pancake, but you have to make a first pancake to make the second, fourth, fifth pancakes, if that makes sense. So for me, I had to make this first course to have made a first course. And so if you're moving into an online market, whether you've taught face-to-face before, or maybe you have taught online before, but your first course will not be your best, it's your first pancake. But what you will gain through launching your first course is you might gain income, students, experience, and you can build and improve from there. And your first course doesn't have to be a conquer the world course. It can be a free course, a mini course, a starter course. It can be a way to build your list. And one of the most valuable things to do if you're entering into online courses for the first time is to maybe just create a free course that's just a couple of lessons long, or a single lesson, or one video that people can sign up to, join your mailing list, and then you can then sell them other courses down the line. So I've kind of talked about courses a little bit, but I haven't finished explaining who I am. So hopefully you found me through some form of either email or social media link, but I'm essentially an artist. I trained in fine art at university. I did art part-time for a long time, taught for a long time. And it was only actually in 2016 when my little girl was born, and she's coming up to 6, so a few years ago now, that I went full-time on my art business. And the shift that I made was online teaching, because that started in 2017. And that shift to teaching online was the shift that made my business profitable. And yes, I do sell my artwork, and yes, I do have other business interests. But the most profitable part of my business is teaching my skills online to people across the world. I write books. I have a YouTube channel, so that's just a little screenshot of the title from my YouTube channel. So I share free teaching videos on there. And I basically love to make courses. I love to teach. That's when I'm in my happy zone, is when I'm creating something and then I'm teaching someone how I create that. In my studio today, for example, I have had a filming day, and I tend to batch filming into batches. And I've been filming sketching. I'm literally looking over here because the studio has exploded on itself. I don't have a big space. That's one other thing to say. You do not need a huge, film studio. I work essentially from a single desk in a converted garage, which is my studio space. So it's just a garage size space, an English garage. I think garages in the USA are a bit bigger. So it's a small space, let's say 9 foot by 15 foot wide, if people do feet. And I've just got a big table, and over it I set up lights, and I set all my sketching stuff up, and I film. So today I've been filming for my Inspire sketching membership, which is a sketching membership. People sign up, they pay a monthly amount, and they have access to teaching videos from me. So I teach online, I teach sketching, printmaking, I write books, and I also randomly run a pottery cafe locally with a friend. So I have 2 separate arts-based businesses. But the thing that changed for me was when I switched to teaching online in 2017. That was a game changer. So let me step into some of the content that I wanted to share with you today. And I do have a few little questions that I've been emailed that I will answer as well. And again, I'll save those to the end. So if any questions occur to you as I'm talking, if anything sort of pops up and you're like, oh yes, I wanted to ask that, pop it in the chat, I'll come back to it. So if you want to create your online course, so first of all, I would say, do it. I love it. It is a really wonderful thing to do, to introduce somebody to your craft, to your art, and to get them doing what you do. I think being able to share arts, crafts, creative subjects through all of this wonderful tech that is actually really affordable now is a joy, and it's a gift, and I love it. So before I sort of get into this stage 1 presentation thing that is here, which is about doing your research, I just kind of want to stress that teaching online, it may be a little work to get set up and get used to things, but then any new job is. So if you're moving into any new job, if you're trying any new thing, there are things you need to learn. There are things you will do right to start with. There are things you may not do quite how you want, and you want to adjust, but it's a journey. It's a journey of getting started, seeing the response, seeing how your students develop, responding, improving, and going back. And one of the amazing things about teaching online is the flexibility and financial freedom that online teaching can give you. I do a lot of pre-recorded teaching, but I also combine that with live workshops like this. I do teach live workshops as part of my membership, and I teach live like classes, workshops in my local pottery cafe where I own the shop. There's a space where we use it for teaching, and I'm also launching a retreat later this year as well. So I teach face-to-face as well, but I choose to do that. For me personally, my circumstances changed having my little girl, who is now 6, because my weekends are more precious than they used to be. Before, I'd happily teach all weekends, doing workshops. I'd go out Friday night, Saturday night, turn up to a workshop, teach all day Saturday. I'd be tired, maybe slightly hungover. I had a whale of time. I loved it. That is not possible now. My weekends are for family. So for me, moving to teaching online gives me time flexibility, and it gives me financial security and freedom. So for example, even just teaching this workshop tonight, it started at 7:30 p.m. UK time. That's my daughter's bedtime. So it means that I have spent quality time with her after the school run, doing dinner, getting her into bed, and now I can run a workshop like this. So I have time freedom and time flexibility. So those are some of the huge benefits of teaching online. And you can access, and even just looking at the, the names and the places of people who have, messaged on the chat, we've got the UK, Canada, Wales, USA, across the world. So teaching online gives you a huge access to people from across the world, not just your local area. If I'm teaching a workshop here in my town, I can teach 10 people. That's it, 10. I have a max. That's all that will fit in my shop, is 10 people for a workshop. Whereas if I teach an online course, the numbers are limitless. Of course, I'm not going to teach the whole world. It's not everybody that wants to learn from me. But if you find your niche and you find your people, you can teach a lot of people. And it can be very profitable, it can be very enjoyable, and it can fit very well into your lifestyle and work with your skill sets. And I'd just like to make a note on that here, that also for many people that run arts businesses, that are artists, craft people, we are introverts. I am 100% classic introvert. I might appear, when people see me sort of talking on my subject or talking, in my pottery shop about what I'm doing and talking to customers, I might appear extroverted, but for me, I find that exhausting. People are, it's tiring being around people. I'm an introvert. So for me, filming pre-recorded videos suits my personality type. And that often also applies to many artists who would rather spend all their time creating, making, doing the thing. Whereas you can kind of film yourself doing the thing. The camera's just there, and share it with the world. Just show your passion and it will come across as genuine. You'll enjoy it. And it's not as scary as it needs to be, because I know definitely that one thing that can be terrifying when you start teaching is the fact that there's a camera there and, maybe you'll fluff your words. But it doesn't really matter. People want to learn the skill. And if you love what you do, you'll begin to find a bit of fluidity in your voice as you speak and as you teach. So online teaching is awesome. That's basically where I'm going with it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So let's talk about getting started. And in the title of this Zoom workshop, I talked about planning and creating, because you need to do both. Planning is essential to make this type of business work. And also creation is essential. It needs to be creative. It needs to be enjoyable. And you need to be showing off your art skills, your craft skills through your online courses, showing your passion. So those two things are going to be sort of talked about almost equally throughout these 5 main stages of creating an online course. Now, before you go anywhere, before you start filming anything, planning anything, getting carried away with teaching, stage 1 of anything is doing your research and kind of almost your strategy. So researching several things is very important to make sure that your course fits in with the marketplace, suits yourself, suits your customers. So I've listed on this screen, on this little slide, 5 different things that you need to consider when you're talking about teaching online, when you're thinking about your first course. And just for the purposes of this workshop, I'm going to talk about your first course. So I'm going to imagine that you've never done any teaching before. So even if you have, just roll with me. I'm imagining you've done no online teaching before. So you might have taught face-to-face, or you might have done no teaching whatsoever. So the first thing you need to do is research, and I'm calling this market research, mainly because that is a professional term. That is the thing that we call doing some investigations, getting some facts, arming yourself with knowledge before you launch yourself into something. And this is really important. So in terms of market research, I would just start looking around for what other artists, perhaps in your field, do. I would look at what type of courses they teach. I would make notes on what stands out to you. Is it the imagery they use? Is it the words they use? I would look at their pricing. Are their courses free? Are they £10, $15? Are they £50, $60, $100? Whatever the currency is, what price is it? What type of course is it? Is it a small course, a big course? Is it a membership? Look at what else is out there. You may well have studied online courses with other people before. And if you have, just go back to those online courses, look through them. What did you like about them? What did you not like? And I've done many online courses through many different individual artists and institutions. So I've done courses with more classic universities or painting schools, as well as individual artists. I've gone and studied a number of courses that are pre-recorded, but also attended live Zoom workshops with people literally filming them doing their painting or their drawing or their sketching there and then, and you're there with the artist live and you can ask them questions. There's an excitement about that. But I've also done pre-recorded things, some that are short, some that are big. So do some market research, understand what else is out there. And I would do this once. I would put the facts down, and then I would try and not think about copying somebody else, because you do want to step into your own power zone. You want to teach your own thing, but it is important to understand what else is out there, who is doing well in your market or your industry or your craft, what they're charging. It's fact finding. What we don't want to do is ever copy somebody else's course, their style, their way of teaching. It's just about market research, and write all that down. Then you kind of flip it, you switch, and you look at yourself. And I'm going back to kind of this point one, what could you teach? What do you do? And obviously some of you have mentioned different things here in the chat. You know, mosaic artists teach mosaic. That's one thing. That's quite a nice specific thing. Wildlife and nature artist, obviously that could be a number of different media, different wildlife that you study and draw and paint, etc. And Linda has obviously mentioned several things: printmaking, artist books, mixed media, handmade ink. That's 4 things. So I would spend some time getting everything out of your head onto paper. What could you teach? Because there's probably quite a lot you could teach. You have got years of knowledge up in this brain, years of skill that you want to get out there into the world. And so what I would do is brainstorm all the ideas. It doesn't matter how silly they are, how fanciful, how big, how small. Just get everything out of your head onto paper, pop it down. And I do this all the time. I have, and I'm friends and family joke at me for having this book, my book of everything, and it's just a notebook. It's a little bit like a bullet journal, if you've ever done stuff like that before. Everything goes in my book of everything. It's my calendar, it's my to-do list, I've studied courses, it's my ideas for courses. So get yourself a notebook. If you have a book of everything like me, use it. If you don't have a book of everything, get yourself a notebook and just start noting down absolutely all the ideas you have, everything that you can think of, because you probably have a lot of ideas. I have tons all the time. Get them down on paper, and then they're out of your head, and it's a bit refreshing. It's nice. And you then need to think about why you want to teach online. why you're looking to enter into this arena. What is it that excites you about it? Because understanding what motivates you is what will keep you going and running a business. And I think having had many years of being self-employed, I've been self-employed since I left university in various businesses. I've never really had any proper jobs. I'm gonna say proper jobs. I've always been self-employed or freelanced. And back maybe 10 years ago, if somebody said to me, oh, should I go self-employed? I've gone, yes, it's the best thing ever. I love it. I love it. I love it. Now, if somebody asked me with a little bit of time and experience behind me, having run a number of businesses, I would say, yes, if it's what you want to do, but it's not for everybody. You have to love what you do. And I'm hoping that you love your craft, you love your art. And this is an extension of that love of your craft. It's just sharing your love of your craft. It's important to have that mindset of you're sharing your love, you're sharing your passion, you're sharing your skills. There's a lot of noise out on the internet, on social media about online marketing and online courses, and it's all very markety, it's all very serious businessy, which is often very great advice. But at the essence, you need to love what you do, which is your craft, and you hopefully will love sharing it as well. So I would just have a little think, as well as thinking about what you could teach, about why you want to teach. What excites you about it? And just bear that in mind and write it down. And this is all research. This is researching the competition, researching what's in your brain. This is all part of research. And then I would start to think about who is the sort of person that would do your online course or would be interested in your online course. Perhaps you have buyers for your art already that love what you do, but maybe they want to have a go. If you teach face-to-face currently, it's probably likely that many of your current students in a face-to-face environment will be either your target market for your online courses, or might buy your online course, or be the right profile of person to study your course. So have a think about who could be your customer, who enjoys your craft, who buys it currently, who's interested in what you do. I have a very clear profile for who does my online sketching courses. I run an annual free and paid 30-day sketchbook challenge. I have a sketching membership. I know who those people are. I've got a name for them. They're called Julie. And Julie is my mum. And Julie is also my target customer. She is my absolute perfect customer. She is recently retired. She has disposable income. She loves gardening. She loves shopping in Marks and Spencer's. She has a little craft room now that her children have moved out of the house. So that is my target customer. So I know Julie very well. I also have several Julies in my membership and several Julies that have studied my courses. So I know who Julie is, and Julie is lovely. Love Julie to bits. So you need to get to know your Julies. You need to know who your customer is. And if you know who buys your art, you might have an idea. But it can be quite hard to perhaps understand who your customer might be if you haven't started this yet. So it's a little bit of chicken and egg. You don't know who you're going to sell to until you know who will buy. And again, this is where market research comes in. And one thing I do whenever I'm launching a new course is that I send out a survey, and I use Google Forms. It's free. You can set up a little form and you can ask a number of questions about, if I taught X, Y, and Z, what would you be interested in? Would you be interested in this, this, and this? What do you struggle with? What do you need help on? Etc., etc. So you can get feedback for free using a Google form. And one thing I would highly recommend if you're starting out, and I don't know at what stage everybody watching this is at in terms of running a business, I would highly recommend having an email marketing platform. And I wouldn't say you necessarily need a website if you don't have one already. If you've got a website already, that's great. But if you don't have a website already, you can use some sort of course portal to show people to you for your online courses. But email marketing is one of the most powerful forms of marketing direct to people's inboxes. So if you don't already have email marketing, I would highly recommend investing. And some of them can be free, like the free starter platforms can have like a free up to so many subscribers. I would highly recommend it. So have a think about who your customer is. Send out a research form, market research survey. You know, if you have customers already, people that come to face-to-face courses with you, ask them what they want to learn from you. And then you also want to research into course platforms. Sorry, my chair's a bit squeaky. And course platforms are the places where courses are shared or hosted, let's say. And this can vary from you literally run it from an email or on YouTube as a series of videos, to paid platforms like Kajabi, Podia, Teachable, Thinkific, that you pay a monthly subscription and then you can upload your courses to there. So do your research onto, they're called learning management systems. So if you're Googling and you're researching, look for learning management systems, or online course platforms is another wording for it, and research those and the costs. So fact finding, stage one is do some research with no judgment, with no preconceived ideas, just go find a ton of facts. Now, stage two is committing to pick one course to start with. You've got to start somewhere. You've got to have your first pancake, your first course. And to be fair, sometimes the first pancake is not that bad. It can actually be very nice. You don't always need to throw it away. It can be very edible. So what I would say is, once you've done all that research and you've thought about all the things you could teach, what is the easiest one for you to get started on? And I like to call this the lowest hanging fruit. So if you're going fruit picking, you want to grab an apple from a tree, you're not going to get a ladder and climb to the top of the tree and pick that apple right at the top. You're just going to walk under the tree, grab the nearest apple that looks okay, the one without the worm in it. You're going to grab that apple. That's your apple. So that's your lowest hanging fruit. What is that first apple that you can grab and you can teach? And I would highly recommend your first course, your first pancake, your lowest hanging fruit being something short, introductory, or free. I would call it a mini course. It's so much easier to practice and to develop an online course that is small, short, achievable, than try to achieve the biggest course in the world to start with, because there's a lot involved. So if you've never done it before, your first course needs to be a taster, a mini course, and this could be free or paid. I often, when I'm running big long courses like the Teach Your Craft program, I'm going to talk about in a minute, that's a 6-week course, or like my Sketchbook Bootcamp course, or my Learning Lino Cut course. So my big courses that will take people 4, 6, 8 weeks to study, that are involved, that have lots of video lessons. They're a lot of work for me and the student. But before that, it's best to just start with something small. So a little taster course, a mini course. An example of this, let me go to my website. Not that one, not that one. I've lost my website already. Bear with me a second. So let me go to free stuff. I'll go to free stuff just as an example. So a mini course, this is a great example of a first type of course to start. This one is free, but it could equally be charged for at £10, £20, for example, or even £50. It is valuable. And it's 5 days of creativity boosting exercises. So in terms of what is in the course, there's an introduction video, a materials explanation. Oh, here we go. So introduction, about me, 5 videos with 5 different creative exercises in, a thank you, and a what's next. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 videos in there, and then some text-based lessons as well. So it's not too big to create. All of those lessons are between 5 to 10 minutes long, 15 at a real push, but they're probably all 5 to 10 minutes long. Might actually say on, no, it doesn't say on there. So they're not super, super long. you know, 5 to 10 videos, that's achievable, really achievable. You don't even have to do a video introduction. Lessons in an online course can be text. They can be a little bit like this: text, image, text, image, text and image. You don't have to have, doesn't have to be 100% video. So that's an example of one mini course or small course. The other one is, it's not free. So if I go to my sketching courses and I go to 7 days of sketchbook warm-ups, this one is £21.99 and a very similar format. I'm not going to show you the whole sales page, but I'm just going to go, oh, have I got the content there? No, but it's a very similar format in that it has an introduction and about me, blah, 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 and then there's 7 days of videos. So 7 videos over 7 days and a conclusion. It's very achievable, really achievable. Whereas if I attempted to do something like my Learning Lino Cut course, which is priced at £120, a bigger course, and you see here, 66 lessons. That is 66 individual lessons or videos. So if I just look at, does that open? Yes, if I look at module 2, you've got all of these videos, 6 minutes, 11 minutes, 8 minutes, da, 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 da. You've got here, this one, tons of videos. So this type of course has a ton of videos. It's really in depth. It's really long. This is all of my knowledge about Lino Cut and creating basic prints with a single block, everything in one course. So this is a big, what we would call a signature course that teaches somebody from going from complete beginner to full knowledge and ability by the end of the course, hence its value at £120. So I would say that if you are starting out, you want to be looking at that sort of smaller course, that free course, that 7-day course, something that doesn't cost too much, that is a taster of your expertise, especially if you're new to it. It's great to have this sort of starter course. It's good for you to practice and it's good for your students to get to know you. So set the bar low. And that doesn't sound particularly like inspirational and grand, but the best thing is to get started is to create something achievable, because from there you can build. It's almost your lead magnet. It's almost your way to get people into your list by having a free or a short course that is a taster of your skills and your teaching. Gives you a chance to practice and get started without losing days, weeks, hours sweating over video editing and technology, etc., etc. So choose a small course, lowest hanging fruit. Make it simple, make it clear, and think about what your title could be that explains what it is. So a beginner's guide to Lino Cut, or how to create your first Lino Cut print, or 7 days of sketching, something really simple. And what I like to do before I even start recording or planning anything is create something called a superstructure. And again, this is planning, plan. I haven't even started creating yet. And I tend to plan out my modules. There's always an introduction. Usually with arts courses, there's some kind of materials list, introduction, explanation, depending on your subject. Sometimes it's very simple, sometimes it's more in depth, and there's specialist places you need to source your materials from that your students will need to know about. And there may be things they need to understand how to use. So with Lino Cut, people need to understand how to use the cutting tools so they don't cut their hands. I expect perhaps with the mosaic example, they're going to need to know how to create the mosaic tiles, or use cutters, use the cement that the tiles go into. I'm guessing they're going to need to know some of those techniques and things before they start creating designs with the mosaics. They need to know how the basic tools work. So usually introduction, introducing yourself, introducing the materials, and then you can go on with your lessons. And to start with, for a first course, a mini course, a little course, I would say it needs to be between 3 and 7 lessons. I like an odd number, 5 to 7, 6 works too. just a number of lessons. What do they need to learn? What is their journey? And on a mini course, it's a little journey. It's a little journey. So it might be how to create your first mosaic coaster, like a little, let's make a little coaster. Or it might be, what else have we got here? You know, paper making, how to make, you know, your first sheet of paper, etc. So just really simple, you know, a taster of your skills. They go on a little journey from point A, not doing anything, or whatever they're at, to learning something, to create your structure. And then this is the biggie, prep your tech. So you need to then think about, okay, where am I hosting this? What media do I need? And again, at this point, I would say a simple iPhone is a great place to start. Don't let technology put you off starting an online course and creating your first online course. An iPhone on its own, even with the sound on the iPhone, is good enough to create a course that people can watch, understand what you're teaching, as long as your environment doesn't interfere, so there's no external noise or, you know, wind in the area or an echoey room. As long as there's nothing interfering and you've got a quiet space, an iPhone will do. You need to figure out where to edit. And if you have a Mac like me, iMovie comes free. Use that. Great place to start. There are lots of apps on your phone that you can, again, some are free, some are paid, you can edit videos on. You don't need to edit too much. We're not creating a blockbuster movie. You're teaching. You just need to teach. So you just need it to be clear. And understanding camera angles. And this is a little bit of practice. So face-to-face, so when the camera is looking at you, is great for explaining things. Overhead, where the camera is facing down, looking at your hands creating, is probably I suppose it's my most used camera angle, is probably one of the best camera angles. Face-to-face and overhead are two important camera angles. Kind of over your shoulder can be quite nice as well. It doesn't need to be complicated as long as people can see what you're doing. That's the main function of your technology, is to get across your information on screen. So you need to prep your tech, keeping it as simple as possible. An iPhone, iMovie, in your home space with natural lighting. That's the simplest setup you can have. As you move forward, you can invest in things like that ring light that's on the screen. So that ring light that's holding my phone there on the screen, that cost me £30 on Amazon. £30. That's not the biggest investment I've ever spent in my business, but I must say it's probably one of the best. That ring light has now had its life. It's fallen apart and I've got a different light, but best £30 I ever spent. But if you have a desk in your home that has a window with natural light, perfect for filming. So prep your tech. You then need to plan to film. So you need to plan a schedule, plan what you're going to film. Because if you plan what you're doing, there's less room for error and it keeps you succinct and you can get the main points across. Yes, you need to talk. Yes, you need to explain, but you don't want your videos to be 30 to 40 minutes long. If you're pre-recording content, you want to keep them short, sweet, and simple. And just to sort of caveat what I've been talking about, I'm talking here, and I've mainly been assuming that the online teaching would be a pre-recorded course. Of course, there is the option of teaching a live workshop, something exactly like this, a Zoom workshop where you're teaching face-to-face, live. People turn up at 7 till 9 p.m. on a Wednesday night and they do their, mixed media sketching with you, or they do their textile work, or they do their whatever it is that you're doing live with you, face-to-face, Q&A, all great. And in a way, you almost don't need to plan your filming as much because you'll just be teaching more naturally, but you still need to plan it. What you're going to cover. So if you're teaching for 2 hours, 1 hour, what are you going to be talking about? What are you going to be demonstrating? When are you going to pause to ask questions? What is your schedule? So pre-recording, you want to keep your videos short and sweet. People have attention spans of fleas nowadays. It's I used to create videos that were so much longer back in the day. Now my videos are between 5 and 10 minutes generally on a pre-recorded course. I might record it in a longer session if I'm explaining something that takes long, but it would be like stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, all cut into little choppy bits. And this is so much easier to navigate from a student's point of view. If you're creating a long painting with lots of stages and layers, for example, if a student can look at the list of videos and go, oh yeah, that was that stage 2. Yeah, I was up to stage 2. I was waiting for my paint to dry. I need to come back. Keep it short and sweet. And I've also said on here, practice filming. I'll let you into a secret. I do this in the car. So I'll be driving to pick up my daughter from school and I'll be talking about what I'm going to be filming next. I'll be practicing talking. Hi, my name is Susan. I'm an artist, author, da, 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 da. And I will talk, I will practice until I'm comfortable and confident talking about my, whatever it is I'm going to be teaching next. And when you're planning to film, plan to do it in blocks of an hour to 2 hours. Any more and you'll get tired. You can do a bit in the morning, bit in the afternoon, but any more, it's really hard to keep the focus and keep succinct and keep with it for that long. Give yourself margin, give yourself time, give yourself space, plan it all in, and then get filming. And I say filming because creating videos is one of the best ways to showcase artwork. But alongside that, so is good explanations and step-by-step photos. You do not have to make everything video. So video is a really helpful and fairly doable element of an online course, but also step-by-step photos. So if you're doing a 3-stage drawing, painting, taking the photos of the first, second, and third stage to complement the video really helps a student understand what they're doing, what the process is. So creating your course is filming, it's text, it's words, bullet points, pictures to get your points across. And then the fun stuff, you share it with the world. So those people that you did some market research with, you asked them what they want to learn from you, you found out what they struggle with, you can invite them into your course. And we do this via a sales page, essentially. And if you're sharing it on, so if you've got your own website, you can create a sales page on your website. This here, so this sales page, for example, on the Learning Lino cart, is on a course platform called Podia. So they have a way that you can create a sales page, and it's basically a page of information that explains what your online course is. You can add text, images, buttons, videos to explain what your course is. So for example, here I've created a course trailer. It's really important that this page shows people what the course is. What are they going to learn? What problem is it going to solve? It's also sometimes good, have I done this here? Yeah, to have a list of the modules, the course content. So, I mean, this is a fairly weighty course, lots of modules, lots of lessons. So the sales page needs to explain what those lessons are and explain what the student is going to learn. So create yourself a sales page. Let people know what you're doing. You can email, you can use social media. You can also, got some beautiful spelling mistakes in here. You can tell what happens when I work late at night. You can also ask people to test your course for free. Beta testers, get them in, get them to study your course, give you feedback, give you testimonials, share your course with the world. Now that is a very, very sort of quick overview of creating your first course, but I have some questions that I wanted to answer. I've had a couple of questions from some different people. So I suppose, yes, yeah, one of the, sorry, I'm just reading the questions to make sure I don't miss anything. I think I've covered quite a lot of the questions. I sort of have 2 or 3 questions from different people on here. Should I have a mailing list service? I would highly recommend it. I think if you're looking to sell anything, promote your courses, you do need a method to do so. So I do recommend it. I use MailChimp, just so that you know what I use. That's a really great one. But there are some, I think MailChimp, well, they used to offer a free option up to a certain number of people. I don't know if that's the same. Somebody's also asked about, is it best to do live Zoom workshops or teach pre-recorded courses? And honestly, that depends on what you feel most comfortable with. If, for example, you're used to teaching in a face-to-face environment, you might feel more comfortable going, right, okay, here's a live Zoom workshop. Like, so say you used to teach every Wednesday night, 7 till 9, down a local community hall, and that's where you teach. Bring it online and you teach every Wednesday night, 7 till 9 p.m, similar format, but it's just online instead of face-to-face. If that feels more comfortable, go with that. And it's basically just like a workshop that you would teach in a venue, but online. And you don't have to provide the materials because students need to buy them themselves. The thing with a live workshop is you do need to make sure that students have all of the materials in advance of the live workshop. If it's a pre-recorded course, somebody can just buy the course, they can start to work through it, go, oh yeah, I need this and this. They can go get the materials, come back to the course, continue studying. So there's that slight, more relaxed way of working through it. It's a little bit more suiting their timescales. Zoom workshops can be recorded. That was another question I've been asked. So this Zoom workshop, actually, let me stop sharing the screen for a minute so I can actually, there we go. So Zoom workshops can be recorded. So you can record them to the cloud, you can record them to your computer. And then one of the best ways to share, if you have a course portal, you can upload it to your course portal. If you don't, you can just upload it to YouTube. It's free to have a YouTube account, and you can upload it as an unlisted video. And that means that nobody on YouTube will find it. It's only if you email somebody the link, they will find it. And that's what I'm going to do tonight with this workshop, is upload it and send out the link to the unlisted video on YouTube, and then it can be watched back. And something that you can do with online courses that I know some people do is they'll offer the live presentation for one price. And then if people want the recording, they have to pay a little upgrade to get the recording. So you can attend live or you can have the recording. So there's so many fun things you can do. What's your best way to get your workshops out in the world? It's a big question. I think I've probably touched on some of it. The main aim, I think, with tonight's workshop is to just give you a bit of an overview for creating your first course. Make it short, make it sweet, plan what you're going to do, research who your customer is going to be, what they're going to want to learn, ask them, talk to them, create a dialogue, create that first pancake, get your feedback, solve whatever problem it is that they've got, and share. And I would certainly recommend working with perhaps 1 to 2 social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest. I mainly use Facebook and Instagram. I do have a Pinterest account as well. I don't really understand Twitter, so I don't use it. My mailing list is my biggest and most important marketing tool. It's the thing I spend the most money on. It's the thing I put the most effort into, and it's the most valuable part of my marketing. I do a bit of Facebook advertisements and Instagram advertisements. And there's a little bit of word of mouth that kind of spreads once you start as well. So I'm just going to share my screen once more, because if this is sounding interesting to you, I do have a 6-week online program that will essentially take you through these stages I have talked about this evening. But it will do it in depth, give you worksheets, and I'll hold your hand throughout the process. So it's called Teach Your Craft. It's a 6-week program, and we start on Monday, the 13th of March. And each week you get a series of pre-recorded videos. And in the first 2 weeks, there is a huge bunch of worksheets, so PDFs that you print out and you handwrite on your answers and you work through. So for example, there is a lot on goals, market research, brainstorming your ideas, and the strategic part at the beginning. That's really important. So you get weekly tutorials all broken down into different stages. So going from research to nailing your content to an in-depth look at technology. In this 1 hour session, there's only so much I can cover. I feel like I've talked a lot, and I know that we're running over. So, but there's so many options, and there's so much discussion, that what I also do, as well as the weekly tutorials, is we have weekly coaching calls. So we hop on Zoom every Tuesday, 1 p.m. GMT, which is UK time, and we have a chat. These are small groups, so we get to know each other, we get to know what courses we're creating, and I get to answer your questions directly face to face. And if you can't make it, you email me the questions and I work through it. The answers are recorded on the Zoom session and you can watch them back. And I know this works because I had a lady from New Zealand study the course last time, and the timing for her of the live Zooms was 2 a.m. Fair enough. She came to the last one actually, but she didn't come to all of them. But every week she emailed me the questions, I answered them on Zoom, and we had a dialogue that way. And we have a private Facebook group as well to chat to. So there's lots going on. It's a really fabulous course. So if this has excited you, so if you've sort of thought, yeah, this is doable, I could do this, but you want a bit of guidance to get you through, do come and join me on Teach Your Craft. It is, it's a lot of hard work in the first couple of weeks, but it eases off, and it's a great program. We do 3 weeks. We have a 1 week break, an implementation week, and then 3 weeks, and it will arm you with all the knowledge, all the options, all the support in how to get your first course off and running. And because you guys have come onto this workshop and you've spent your evening or your day, wherever you are in the world, engaging, watching, absorbing, hopefully making notes, I'm offering a 10% discount on the course if you use that funny little code there, TYC10. So if you use this code TYC10, you'll save 10%, which means it's actually £45, which is quite good. So the course is normally £450, but with that 10% discount code, which is only valid until the 13th of March, then you get that discount. And I'm only running this course once this year, just because of my schedule of other teaching programs, my Sketchbook Challenge, my Sketchbook Bootcamp, and my other teaching, my membership that I run. I only have space in my calendar to run this once a year because it's more of a coaching program and it's quite involved. And yeah, I've only got this one time this year to run it. So it will be an annual course and program rather than being something that is always open. But if you sign up now, if you join, the week's content will sort of drop in week by week, and then you have access to it ongoing from forever. So you can kind of follow along, but if you don't get stuff finished, you can continue working on it. So let me just show you where it is if you want information. So if you go to my website, you can hit on the top button here at the banner that says Teach Your Craft, or go to Learn With Me, Teach Your Craft. And this will show you everything about this particular course. The main things I wanted to sort of show, I do send out a weekly tips email every Tuesday, which sometimes stops like over Christmas and things like that, but it's generally weekly. But this is the program. We talk about getting started, figuring out your research and reasons. We talk about nailing your content. We go through technical stuff, filming and editing, and I actually show you me filming and I show you editing when I edit on iMovie. And then I talk about marketing in depth and launching. And I also talk about looking after students and sustainably running the business going forward as well. So there's a lot of information there. This is one of my big in-depth courses with lots of video, plenty of worksheets as well. This is one difference with this course compared to some of my more practical arts, sketching, lino cut courses, is that because this is a more business-driven course, there are more worksheets like PDFs that you can print out and write on. So that is Teach Your Craft. So yeah, come and join me. It's really fun, and it's really wonderful seeing people have their questions answered, see them progress and get to actually teaching, because I love it. I love teaching online. It really sparks joy in me, and sharing knowledge and skills, gets me excited. Planning what I'm going to teach. I teach like a sketching membership, and each month I share sketching tutorials, and I have to come up with new themes. And it's just so fun. It's so fun. I get to create, share it with people. They do it. I see what they do. It's just such a wonderful dialogue and community. It's super fun. So I think that's it. I think any other question that I've been emailed would be answered in Teach Your Craft. Oh yeah, somebody asked about running a community as part of a course. So I tend to run communities on Facebook groups because most people are familiar with Facebook. There are other options. I know people that run them on Circle, on if you're in Kajabi, which is a course platform, they have a community feature. Lots of ways to do communities. It's kind of up to you, but I do mine on Facebook groups, and that's what would the community for Teach Your Craft would be, a Facebook group as well. Any other questions, please do pop them in the chat now. This is your last opportunity. We have slightly overrun. I'm really sorry. I tend to talk a lot and I want to get so much information across in a very short space of time. So I'm very sorry for overrunning slightly. Lovely. So yeah, glad the session has been informative. But yeah, any other questions, do ask me. And if you think of anything after this session has finished, drop me an email. My email I'll put in the chat is hello@SusanYates. Oh, I can't spell. Apparently I can't type and talk. It's one of the lovely features of Zoom is typing and talking. There we go. So my email is hello@susanyates.co.uk. So email me if you have any questions about the course, about anything I've covered tonight. But this has been recorded, and I will email you a link to a recording that will be uploaded to YouTube. Linda has asked on the chat, would you highly recommend Podia to host as the main platform? Yes, I switched to Podia last year, so quite recently, about a year and a half ago. And that was because the course platform I used previously shut down, which was very tedious and required a lot of porting of courses. But Podia so far have been very good. They run memberships, courses, and free downloads. So you can host a lot of stuff and have an education website on it as well. So it would do a lot of things and you may not need a website. So I hope that has been useful. Thank you so much for those of you that are watching here live. I will send you a link to the recording via the email that you use to sign up to find the link to it. And good luck with it. So if I don't see you on Teach Your Craft, I would love to, but if I don't, good luck with your online courses. And I hope you have a huge amount of fun teaching and have as much enjoyment out of online teaching as I do. And thank you so much. I will see you soon. Take care.